Bill, what's going on? Welcome to Dad Edge, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And just for context, I would love for you and I, we wrapped a little bit before we started recording today. Where are you recording from and why?
I'm in a hotel room in the UK, mix of family and business reasons to be here, but a special surgery for our smallest family member, our dog. But also over here launching the Athletic UK business as well. So it's a little bit of both, but yeah, very relevantly to the pod. I'm in a hotel room with all of my family members and just put my 2-year-old son down to sleep.
That's so cool. Yeah, that was what I wanted to get to was you just putting your 2-year-old son down to sleep, and you mentioned he was kind of crying before we hit record and all that good stuff. It's like perfect father show right here.
Oh yeah, he was so fired up. Didn't want to go to bed. So it's yeah, it's a good glimpse into like the work-life balance going on.
You know what's so funny though is like when you're a kid, like you fight sleep. Jim Gaffigan is one of my most favorite comedians, and he talks about like how when you have kids, it's like literally like a hostage negotiation, but in reverse. It's like if you'll just go in there and go to sleep, I'll give you anything you want, right? But when you're an adult, it's like my wife and I, we joke our kids bust our chops. We have four boys. We have a 17, 15, 9, and 7 year old, and the older ones will watch the little ones when we go out on date nights. And my oldest was watching my little guys on Friday night, and he's like, so what time are you guys gonna be home tonight, because I might want to go spend the night at a friend's house. And I was like, well, what time do you need us home by? He's like, well, you guys are never out past like 10, so are you gonna be later than 10? I was like, no, in fact, we'll probably be earlier. So like, because my wife and I will actually high five each other, like, holy crap, we actually got to bed by 10, like, or 10:30. That's just crazy, right? And we just embrace that. When you're a kid, not so much.
I love it. I actually had the full circle of this today. So this morning, we're all in the hotel room here. I This morning the day started with my son standing up in his crib and just going up, 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 like he wanted to get up. And then later this afternoon, he wanted to sleep longer, but we had to go out and do something. And so I woke him up early for a nap, and he let us hear about that for like a half hour to an hour after. So it was like you could have had all that sleep you wanted this morning. Um,
That'll teach you that.
yeah, I don't think the lesson landed
No,
necessarily.
not really. So real quick before we get started, because I want to start with your childhood, but what does your family look like now? I know you're married, know you have a dog, know you have a 2-year-old. Anybody else in the mix?
Yep, one other dog who didn't make it over here with us, and then yeah, my other immediate family is just brother and sister. So
Okay. So you have an only child
so far, yeah,
so
yep.
far. Yeah. Okay, cool. And how long have you been married for?
Coming up on 8 years.
Nice. What's one, if so, let's just have some fun here for a second. If you were to go back 9 years ago and have a conversation with yourself before you got married, what advice would you give yourself if you were able to like literally just sit down with 9 years ago self, present day self, and say, look, man, I'm going to give you some killer advice here for the next 9 years, and here's what it is. What would you be saying?
Hmm, that's interesting. Um, I think it's all about just being present and enjoying moments and just knowing when to unplug. There's time to be working, there's time to be present, and that is for everyone in your family, um, no matter who it is. So I think that would be it. Uh, but yeah, maybe I'll circle back on that at some point in the conversation too, if I have
Yeah.
any brilliant insights.
It's one of the hardest things to do, especially if you're a business owner, CEO. It's very hard to, hit that unplug button and completely disconnect. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We call, being present a present because it's a gift, right? And we can do that. So, um,
100%. Yeah,
yeah.
there's always like a little fire burning somewhere. There's always 20 extra things on the to-do list.
Oh
And,
yeah.
they'll always still be there tomorrow, and there'll be 20 new ones tomorrow that I didn't know about today. So, like, I'm realizing more than ever that my son's growing up really fast and trying to be extremely intentional about spending time with him for sure.
It's really crazy, man, because I just took my 17-year-old to school for the last time last week. And it was
Wow.
yeah, I remember when he was like 2. And interesting thing was is that he had his license and I went into his room and I just thought it was like, the night before and it was like any other day. And I went in, I was like, "Hey man, what time are we leaving for school tomorrow?" And he just kind of smiled at me. And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "You don't have to take me to school anymore." I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" Like it hit me, but it didn't hit me. He's like, "Dad, I have my license now. I'm gonna be driving myself tomorrow and Mason too, which is my 15-year-old." I was like, and I just it was like literally like, holy crap. Like it was like a new chapter an old chapter closed, a new one began. And I was like, "Oh my God, man." I was like, "So wait a second. Today was the last day I took you to school?" He's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I wasn't ready for that, man. Like I wasn't ready for that." I was like, would you bestow one of the most beautiful, greatest gifts to me and allow me to take you to school one more time?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah, I would do that." I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I wrote him like this letter, but kind of like nostalgic. You have a 2-year-old. I was in that letter. I talked about, I remember him driving him home from the hospital. I remember him like us taking him to daycare when he went to daycare, preschool, kindergarten, 8th grade graduation, starting high school, like all these milestones. And you're just like, holy crap, like these kids grow up so fast and you don't even realize it. So yeah,
Yeah, I'm definitely starting to see that. There's certain phases you wish you were out of faster, but they go by fast.
they
And
do.
um, and then the phase, like even things like my son's moved on from like some of our favorite books or his favorite outfits and like things, and like it's just very sad every step of the way. And I'm really worried about how fast it's going to go. And I've heard similar to what you're saying is like you can't the one thing you can't do is go back and relive your life again. Like you can't buy more time, you can't relive a childhood. um I heard a really good piece of advice probably like a year ago at this point, but there's always the temptation to be going for your phone, doing something else while you're with your kids. And yes, like looking at an email may be important in that moment, but like whatever your kid is trying to do with you at that moment may be the most important moment of their day too. And you may just miss it if you don't engage with them. And that's really stuck with me. But also, like that moment may be the most important moment of their day. And if it could have been awesome, but it may not happen if you don't pay attention. And then and then you can't get it back also. So that's been really on my mind is like keeping the phone out of family time and like really blocking off time both night and morning as much as I can.
That man, that is so, so true. Um, and such a powerful reminder. I want to start with your childhood. Like, what was it like growing up for you? Obviously, you have 2 siblings, but I would love to just dive into what your relationship with your own father was and what your family was like growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself very lucky. I have a great family, great brother and sister. I've known my wife 22 years coming up on. So like there's been a lot of stability, good health in general. And so I feel extremely lucky. The one big moment in my childhood was my mom did get cancer very suddenly and pass away right as I was graduating from high school. Um, and so she was kind of like the rock of our family. And so up until that moment, we'd had like the perfect family. And I feel extremely fortunate for those 18 years. But that is a big uprooting moment for sure. And I think in hindsight, probably took me like a decade to like firmly get back on my feet after that. I didn't really realize it at the time.
My gosh, man. Now just for some context, was this a type of cancer that was super sudden, or did it happen slowly over time, or what was it like?
Yeah, it was super sudden. So, yeah, I would have thought she was like the healthiest person on the planet up until then. And then between when she found out and when she passed away, it was only 6 months. It, I mean, I feel extremely fortunate that I got through high school with my mom present. I would have loved her advice going forward as well and got to especially as a father now, I see my wife's mother interacting with our son as a grandmother, and she's incredible with our son. And I really wish my mom had those moments, like as well. I knew she would love them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it happened pretty suddenly, but it over time has given me the opportunity of a lot of perspective too on like how great a parent she was, how great a wife she was for my father. Like I saw his life take different turns after that as well. So definitely a good moment for perspective, or a lot of moments of perspective from that as well.
I would love to just steal some experience that you had that we could bestow upon the audience. When you say that your mom was amazing, right? She was you and you mentioned not only an amazing mother, but an amazing wife. What were one or two things as a mom that you look back now that you really, really appreciate that was just part of her character or part of how she went about parenting? And then maybe one or two things that you saw maybe in her character as a wife that you really appreciate now that you're older.
Yeah. Things I reflect on continually are that she was like always on and always positive. And definitely not scared to like say the thing I knew I wasn't doing right and like critique me or point it out and like help me get better. But I think something she bestowed in me was like just a big confidence that like I could do anything. And I think she almost instilled this like delusional confidence in me. And me and my wife often joke about it, like, what must my mom have said to me when I was younger? But like, um, I think she was overall a really positive person and like really believed in her kids and helped empower them. And I definitely am taking that away in raising my son as well. But like, just like encouraging us to do a lot of things, giving us confidence, and so I'm not putting it to words great, but I think that was one of her great characters. And then, tying our family together. She was really intentional about making sure we had family time, dinners together, activities, family vacations, things like that. We weren't dealing with the biggest budgets, but we would all get in the car and do great family vacations to different places. And so, in that was like a really core member of our family, and I think was a big like structural force in my father's life as well. Like she was his biggest cheerleader as well, like also like the rock of our family, and so tough to lose that at any stage in a family's life.
Wow. So, and what was it like? Yeah, I'm actually interested. I want to back up here for a second. You said she had this really cool mixture of always being positive, but also maybe critiquing or giving some constructive feedback when needed. How did she balance being like a positive force in your life and also being able to point out some blind spots, which quite frankly, a lot of kids or even human beings for that matter, we really don't like that. But depending on the source, sometimes we really appreciate it as well.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing people can have is just like a yes man who's like everything's great, and like you don't hear the honest truth from them. Both my mom growing up and my wife to this day like are like great cheerleaders and supporters of me, but also my biggest critics as well. So um, I I think I think it just leads with honesty, but like I knew it was always coming from a positive place too. It's because she wanted to help me get better. She knew I wanted to be better at whatever I was doing, and so um, I think that would be the balance.
Wow, that's really cool, man. That is a very difficult balance to strike because either you're the mom or dad that is constantly nagging their kids, or you're like this positive force for good, right? And it's very hard to actually
Mhm.
strike that balance between tough love and also love and positivity. So that's awesome that your mom was able to do that. What was it like for your dad? Because you alluded to that she was the rock, right? And she was maybe even the glue that kind of, you know, everyone was, that was the stickiness in your family. What was it like after she passed away for your dad?
Um, I'm not totally sure, honestly. I think one of her strengths was probably being like the communicator of the family too. So I think it took us probably 10 plus years to get back to like a really well communicating family, I would say. Even if we were like in the same room doing things together, I don't think like the communication was there. I would say we're finally back at that point. which is great. But definitely something I've taken away from that period for sure.
Hmm. And then, so, and with your own dad growing up, I mean, I'm very curious to know what was your relationship with him like, while your mom was there as well, but also even after the fact, like just the dynamics of father son for you guys.
Yeah. Um, he's he's great. So he's he was probably the picture of activity growing up. Camp counselor, always had activities, super involved in our sports, very involved in our lives, like always like from as long as I can remember to present day. If I ever asked anything of him in terms of like, do you want to do something? Do you want to be at this? Do you want to be at this? Or like be involved in this? It would always be yes. And so like super involved and like can't ask for anything more. I'm super sympathetic to losing a life partner at such a late, like a middle inning of life in a way. I think they had a lot of probably retirement dreams together and big plans for the future, and that must have been really uprooting for him. So I can't imagine that. But it's he's had a very free life since then. So yeah, it's tough to imagine what life would be like without a super strong partner at that juncture.
Yeah, I bet, man. And then, so for you, just kind of moving on with, what did you do before you founded Athletic?
Yeah, I was went to good college, kind of like sleptwalked into a financial career. I liked finance. It wasn't like inspiring to me, but it was at least intellectually interesting, competitive, intense, challenging, merit-based. So there was a lot of things that were good about it, but I definitely sleptwalked into a financial career. Everyone from the town I grew up in, we were 30 minutes outside New York City. Everyone worked in finance. It was kind of all I knew. And so, kind of before I knew it, I was 10 years into a financial career that was going fine. And I didn't anticipate doing anything different my whole life, really.
So what was the like going from finances in that area and then suddenly like, I think I'm gonna do this now. What was that?
Yeah. I mean, I had no inclination whatsoever to be any type of entrepreneur. Definitely didn't not in the food realm. I mean, I loved food. I have the biggest appetite of anyone you'll ever meet. I love good beer, love good food, um, and so it was something I was really into, but like would have never thought I'd be qualified to be in that world either. It wasn't until I was just getting healthier. I was 6 months from getting married. And like a lot of people in their 20s, I was drinking too much from time to time, but like time to time with like 4 work dinners a week, then social things, bachelor parties, weddings, dinners with my wife, everything. Like I was just drinking too much and too often. Um, and even if I was like busy as all hell, had a great life and a great career and whatever on paper, I didn't like that alcohol was a performance ceiling in my life in so many ways. And it was really hard for me to see that from the inside. With perspective, it's super easy to see it now. And I was really lucky to have a very supportive fiance at the time and colleagues at the time who, I made this decision to stop drinking before I got married. I envisioned myself as a husband, as a father, and like my professional career. And alcohol just didn't seem like a great fit in any of it. It was just this super long, super low ceiling, but like erratic variable that I didn't want part of my life anymore. And so I stopped drinking. And that was about 10 years ago. But within like the first month, um, I was sleeping through the night, which was something I didn't know was possible. I was feeling better. I had much better communication with my wife. At work, I was sharp every day. I didn't have any like hungover days at work. I was eating healthier. And just felt like this intellectual capacity that I'd turned off like 12 or 14 years before. All of a sudden, my mind was running every night. And, it was the healthiest decision I ever made. And in that, I kind of realized that, a lot of like recovery from alcoholism and I'm not sure where I was on any sort of spectrum or whatever of alcoholism. Like everyone's experience is totally different. And there's nothing wrong with having a drinking problem. 15 million Americans have documented drinking problems. Um, but like a lot of that recovery happens one on one in private rooms, and which is great. Like there's a lot of great recovery work going on for sure. Um, I just thought it was time to take that out of private rooms, make it anonymous, or take it from anonymity into like positivity and just make it a totally normal, positive, healthy life choice to stop drinking. Um, and really, like I saw the impact it had on my life to stop drinking, and I wanted to make it really easy for other people to stop drinking and just give people tons of off ramps that were socially acceptable. And so that's really what I set out to do with Athletic Brewing. It took me a while to get fully to like complete that arc of the logic. I will say, at first, I was like just complaining to my wife, and I was like, I would just love a great craft non-alcoholic beer. How isn't this a thing yet? And it was actually in that moment she grabbed my shoulder and was like, "You should do that." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And it was my wife originally who pointed out the idea and encouraged me to start researching it. And she helped me get going on it. And it was kind of off and running from there. I did 2 years of business planning, but it was after that where me and her in conversation really connected the dots that it wasn't only a great economic idea, but like the impact on tens of millions of people could be enormous. So sorry, it took me a long time to get home on that one.
No, that was the exact detail that I really wanted. Going back to the early days of probably, I would say that's, we could easily deem that as like social drinking, right? It's like, hey, this work function, this dinner, this or that. But what was it difficult for you in the very beginning? Let's just say the first 30, 60, 90 days to just make that decision? Did you have temptations and maybe even question, am I doing the right thing? Maybe I'll do this just for a short period of time. Or was it more like, this is a line in the sand. I'm done drinking. I know I'm done drinking. I'm not going back to it. And this is going to be my life moving forward.
Yeah, I'd tried a lot of like half measures before and like almost totally forgot I even had this plan in place to begin with. So like it wasn't until I was like, you know what, I'm just done with this. And I totally took it out of the consideration set that it really stuck and was permanent. And honestly, it was pretty easy once I like just decided I wasn't drinking. And still went to restaurants, sports bars, casinos, bachelor parties, weddings, whatever. And I realized I loved being there, and no one cared if I was drinking or not, which blew
Right.
my mind. Like no one really cares nearly as much about anyone else as they do themselves,
Right.
and it kind of blew my mind that like none of my friends, none of my family cared if I was drinking. And then I also realized I liked buying a round of drinks. I liked hanging out with people who were drinking. And like, I just didn't need to be drinking myself, except I really would love a delicious beer because I really did love delicious beer to go with good food and good times. And so it was a huge pain point, though, to be in all those places and feel like an outsider for those reasons.
I totally get that. And just to kind of quickly comment, so during our Dad Ed Summit, you and I were talking about this before. You were one of our sponsors last year, and you supplied us with, and the guys, all 200 guys who were at our event, just loved the beer. And I stood up on stage and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go 365 days. If anybody wants to join me, please jump on stage." And we had 21 guys jump on stage. And we are in a daily accountability group now. And we've only lost one guy. Only one guy decided, hey, this is not for me. I'm not gonna be alcohol free. And that's okay. I mean, people make their own decisions. But this is actually my second time doing a 1 year stint. And what I've noticed is exactly both times is exactly what you just said. It was surprising to me the first time because I did this for the first time in 2016 and now this year. But it was pleasantly surprising to me in 2016 and now this time I expected it, which was exactly that. I always thought, I'm like, well, if I'm not drinking, this is me back in 2015. If I'm not drinking, are people going to think like something's wrong with me? Like I'm a social leper? Maybe they think I have a problem. Maybe they think I went to rehab. Maybe they're going to think I'm I'm better than them and they feel guilty for drinking in front of me, and all these things, all these stories I was telling myself. And what I'll tell you is all of that was exactly what you just said, which was false. And what I found was is nobody cared. And so like my drink of choice when I go to a bar is club soda with lime. I don't even know how many people know or don't know that I'm not drinking, and not that they even care. The ones who have asked though, like when they do the buying of a round thing and all that, and I'll be like, oh, it's club soda with lime. And they're like, club soda with lime? Like, yeah. And I just tell them I'm doing a year. And they're like, oh, and then suddenly it's weird, right? Suddenly the entire conversation, as somebody who is holding a drink in front of me and I'm holding my club soda, all of a sudden they want to know, like, what's it like? What's it? And then suddenly their life story is coming out like, man, I've kind of always wanted to try that. I've always wanted to do that. I'm not really sure if I could do that or if I want to do that. Like, but I'm really curious about it. Like, I've often kind of wondered if I drink too much. And then it just becomes like this conversation that was very unexpected. But you're right. So many of us think, well, if I stop drinking, all these people are going to think this stuff, and nobody cares at the end of the day. So
Mhm.
that's been my experience as well.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that moment of like ordering around and like it feels like the music goes off in a bar and like everyone's looking at you. And especially at work dinners were some of the worst when like people would be like, oh, you're not drinking. And then like your colleagues are thinking, oh, something must have happened. Like, and like, hey, like work dinners should probably be like the least drink like friendly environment probably in reality. But because you're like there to be productive in some sense.
Yeah.
Um, but we like so our goal is by no means to like obliterate alcohol like and wipe it off the earth. Like the world's a stressful place. Whatever people do in their free time is them. We just want to make sure to give people like easy off ramps and plenty of choices. There just never been choices and that people could like legitimately enjoy. But then also like alcohol advertising has trained people for decades, like ever since prohibition, really, when the country had alcohol taken away, that like you're not normal if you're not drinking. Where we're trying to obliterate that. Um, our co-founder John, who like for people who don't know, like I'm kind of the outside world co-founder and like the CEO, sales and marketing, finance type guy. And John's the real brewmaster and expert and runs our whole brewery setup. It's John puts it to words really well that he hopes when his kids get to legal drinking age, it's like a total non-event if you're drinking or not. Like one day you can go for a beer, one day you can go for a non-alcoholic beer, one day you could go for an alcoholic spirit, one day you could go for a non-alcoholic cocktail. Um, and that's like the dream that you can like whether you're drinking or not, totally normal and equally as good options when you open the menu.
I agree with that. That's actually my next question. How in God's name have you cracked the code on this taste? And I mean, I am not kidding, man. Like I really do enjoy like a good IPA, and the IPA selections that you guys have. Like before I tried Athletic Brewing, I was pretty skeptical. I was like, and not to downplay like O'Doul's, but I mean, like I don't like O'Doul's. And I remember when somebody put an Athletic Brew in my hand for the first time, and it was way before the summit. I mean, like, hey man, just try this. And I tried it, and I was like, this is non-alcoholic. Like, yeah. And I was like, this is delicious. Like it is very, very good. And I've tried almost all of your selections, but especially I think it's got to be hard to really somehow make a non-alcoholic IPA just taste amazing, but you guys have somehow cracked the code. So whatever you guys are
Thank you.
doing from a brewmaster perspective, like it's unbelievable. And the story I'm telling myself is that this couldn't have been easy to do.
Yeah, and it legitimately gets better and better every year too, because our brewing and our quality teams are so fanatical about quality and like cleanliness, and like our lab teams are amazing, our sensory teams are amazing. Um, but it all really started with John. I mean, I would say it probably started earlier than that too, where John and I started with like the first principle of the existing technology probably doesn't work well enough to make great non-alcoholic beer because there's 9,000 plus breweries out there. And if the technologies worked, one of them at least would be making great non-alcoholic beer. And so we read the brewing textbooks and we would download whole curriculum from brewing schools and try to think of how we could make all the good stuff ferment, but not the ethanol that goes along with it. And we so when I met John, I had the process somewhat worked out on paper that I brought to him, and I was like, people have been making non-alcoholic beer all through generally the same idea. They make a full strength beer and then they nuke it at the end of the process with some sort of machine. And I was like, I want to go back and never make the alcohol in the first place, but I want to have a full fermentation. And I think we can do it in this way. And John took it for a weekend and circled back to me. I was like, I think this could work, or some version of it. And credit to him, he moved his family across the country from New Mexico to Connecticut. He had a 1 year old and a 5 year old at the time. And we homebrewed in an empty warehouse with no other equipment in it on Gatorade jugs for about a year, just hundreds of batches, changing like one thing every day with the scientific method. And so it started in a totally different way than any other non-alcoholic brewery out there. But then now, as you were saying, our brewing teams can make any variety of beer, any style, and like are doing super cool things every week. Like we just released a jalapeno mango IPA called Mango Picante. And we've got some great stuff coming up this summer, like a really cool version of our lemon radlers coming out, and so
That's
really
awesome.
excited.
How big is the catalog now? How many different flavors do you have?
So I'm legitimately like our biggest super fan and customer number one. Like I know I was like the inspirational customer originally, but I order almost every beer we make. And last year, I finally started to fall behind. I think we did 56 beers last year, and or it might have been 56 2 years ago and 75 last year. But like I finally couldn't keep up, but I tried as best I could. But I think this year we're gonna do about 40. We slowed it down a little bit to like really dial in ones that we're super excited about.
And what are like the top three sellers? What are people's favorites out there?
Our Run Wild IPA is still by far our most highly awarded beer and the one I drink by far the most of. So it's still about 70% of the beer I drink. And it's won back to back to back gold medals at the US Open Beer Awards, even with 100 plus non alcoholic beers in the category now. So that's still by far our most popular beer.
That was the first one I tried. That was the first one that someone put in my hand. They're like, "Try you like IPAs?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Try this." And I just
I
couldn't.
love it.
I remember like looking at the can. I was like, "This is seriously non-alcoholic. Like seriously, like you're not messing." Yeah, it's right there. That is
Yeah,
that's what's in my
I'm
fridge at
drinking
all
it
times.
now. I literally would be drinking it whether we're on a podcast or not, for sure.
Yeah, it's really good. Now that we've talked about the product, what I'd really love to ask you about is the impact. I would just love for you to just maybe share some stories or some feedback with maybe men who have struggled with this, and maybe they wrote you an email, maybe they shook your hand at a gathering, maybe it was one of your investors. God only knows, but they were just like, "Hey man, like I want to let you know that my life has changed and you are a part of it." But if you could share any stories like that, that would be really meaningful.
Yeah, I mean that's 100% why I started Athletic Brewing. I know all of our teammates have different goals and getting on the team and everything, but I can speak to my personal experience and the hope of impact I had. Um, there are 15 million documented alcoholics in this country. I think it's like 14.8 million. But alcohol is very discreetly the number three all causes killer in the country. There's heart disease, cancer, and then alcohol. I think it's about 100,000 people a year, but sometimes goes as high as like 180,000, I think. Um, and it contributes to heart disease and cancer number two and one. And it took me really stepping away from my drinking to like do research and think about this. But there's so many, if there are 15 million documented, there's so many multiples of that, either people related to those people or people who aren't documented that are affected by alcoholism in this country. And the second I started to string a line through those dots and think, there's a chance I could potentially solve this in some small way, in a positive way. Um, it was the idea I couldn't turn off, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was so excited about it. It could make me run through walls any time of day, any year of the calendar year. And so, yeah, in terms of those emails and things we've gotten, it's anything from, we get a ton of emails that are like, I've just been sitting here reflecting on this, and I've realized it's 3 months since I've had a drink, and I totally accidentally quit drinking. And in hindsight, I was probably drinking too much, and I think this is going to have a great impact on my health. And I thought I'd write you an email about it. But we also get tons of emails that are also, say, more like people who have a serious health circumstance or life circumstance going on and just want some semblance of normalcy, and grabbing a non-alcoholic beer that they really enjoy having with their family member or partner or anything, is like such a special moment that they felt that, like, there are people who haven't been able to have like a beer with their dad for 20 years, and they were able to like relive that experience and like go to a baseball game and have a beer or something like that. And so some of those emails are extremely touching. But the ones for me that are sometimes the most touching are from young fathers or fathers who basically say like they're better fathers because of athletic brewing. Like they stopped drinking, and it was super easy to stop drinking because of it. And if we can scratch the itch for people, give them the full experience that they were longing for out of the beer, but not bring any of the baggage with it, like that's the goal right there. So
What's really interesting is, so I'll have, either an athletic brew, I'll have club soda with lime, or I'll have like a Zevia, which is like a flavored club soda. And what I've noticed is exactly that, is when I was drinking, it wasn't so much the drinking aspect of it. It was having, I guess, what I would call a socially acceptable beverage in my hand, right? Something that I could like sip on or hold or whatever else, like just like everybody else, versus like my hands in my pocket. And, but I can definitely understand, like, especially, if you, and again, not to like downplay like other non-alcoholic brews, but like, if we go back to like some of the originals that have been around for years and years and years, I remember, like the stigma that when somebody would see one of those in a guy's hand, be like, oh, well, he must have a problem, versus like, if you have a run, what I've noticed is if you have a Run Wild in your hand, no one knows. Like it
mhm.
literally looks like a legit beer can, right? And you actually have to really kind of like look at the print on it to say, oh, it's a non-alcoholic. So it literally just looks like a IPA. But I like that you guys have done that, and again, the taste is on point. I want to ask you this: when are you guys going to get into stadiums? Because like when I take my kids to, and I don't know what I don't know, so you might be in stadiums already. I'm just, the ones I've been to, I'm always like, man, it'd be awesome watching this baseball game is having a non-alcoholic beer, but it's so hard to find that.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's hard to do without the huge marketing budgets. All those beer companies spend a ton of money to be in those stadiums every year, but we're getting there. We like it's been asked for so many times, and our distributors want to sell it so badly that we have gotten more and more stadium deals organically or small paid deals. And I'd say we're in about 10 stadiums now nationally and selling really well, like Seattle Mariners, all of USC Athletics has us in. We're in stadiums and arenas in Charlotte and Philly. We're in MetLife Stadium. So starting to pop up here and there for
Oh,
sure.
man. That's awesome, man. And what's the long game? What's the long vision for Athletic Brewing? What's your big audacious goal for this?
Yeah, I mean, just that. It's a couple of things I've touched on is, there's a huge impact on alcoholism to have out there. Humans have been drinking for 5,000 years. I just want to modernize that and give it a healthy wellness bump. Um, Kind of what our co-founder John says. He wants his kids to be able to open a menu when they're legal drinking age and get anything they want in non-alcoholic or alcoholic, and there's no drop off in experience, which is starting to happen. You know, when we started 5 years ago, there wasn't a single name beer brand in the category. No one had their flagship in there. It was all like sub brands or like funny names. Now you can get a Bud, a Guinness, a Corona, a Heineken. Like everyone's got their main beer in there. And I think Athletic helped permission that.
That's good, man. I love the fact that your vision is not necessarily beer sales, it's to change lives and to give people a more
Yeah.
robust selection that might be healthier for them. The I would love, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to let you think about it for a second, and then I'll just share a quick personal story.
Yeah.
The question, you're a father, you have a 2-year-old, you're married, and I would love for you to just share any type of heartfelt message or advice that you have for a man who might be listening to this podcast. And he might be like, you might be really nudging on his heartstrings a little bit to be like, I'm thinking about this for a while. It's kind of been on my radar. Maybe I should give this a shot and see what my life would like, what my life would be like, without this. And while you think about that, I just want to share this. I grew up in a, a heavy dose of alcoholic environment. My mom struggled with it horribly. And I remember, and every guy she dated and every guy she was married to, same thing. And I remember their relationships a lot revolved around drinking. There was always drinking, always drinking. And I remember walking into my house, whether I was in high school or even when I was little, and the first thing I would see is a drink in the hand. And I'd be like, oh my God, like what's about to happen tonight? Is it going to be pleasant? Is it going to be horrible? What's it going to be? There were times where I would come home and visit from college and I would sit in my driveway because I knew I was going to walk in on my mom and her husband who had been drinking for hours. And I would always be like, oh my God, I don't want to go in there. And I think parents don't know what they don't know. I think they're like, oh, my kids really don't notice. They don't see it. Maybe I'm more the fun dad, or maybe it's not as harmful as I thought. But what I can tell you is there was substantial harm that was done, and it took me a long time to voice it, and wasn't until I was pretty much an adult, to be like, man, this was not a good experience at all. And I won't go into detail around that, but as for the message you have for the man who's listening to the show and he's like, maybe this is it. Maybe I'm going to try this. What message would you have for him?
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh,
I mean, that must have been so tough. And um, it was a similar calculation that was going through my head when I was 6 months to be married and stopped drinking. I was kind of looking out at the person I wanted to be to my family, to my wife, to my unborn kids, to my dogs, even to my colleagues. And I realized that alcohol probably brought out the worst elements or less productive elements in my life. And now, a decade into that decision, it's been unequivocally the best decision of my life. And I think in many ways, it's like flipped the starting switch of my life. Probably when I was around 30 years old, I would have, if someone gave me the opportunity to fast forward for 2 years, I might have done it. And those are like peak of your life years, like late 20s, early 30s. I was just under so much stress. I was just so go, go, go. Like I might have hit fast forward if given the option, which is a really sad thing. But looking back on that decision now, the health, the intellectual curiosity, everything that it unlocked in my life, you know, it's all positive. And also then, like as a family person, like it's risk free to try it, to stop drinking for a month, to stop drinking for a year. There's no risks associated with that. No one's going to find you less fun. If anything, you're going to be more reliable. You're going to be more fun for people to be around because you're just more reliable and you're with it. Um, and also, like as a father, like you're going to be more present. Like it takes a lot of risk off the table. It also, like if you're thinking about things that could contribute to serious health or illness down the lines, like drinking is one of them that has potential to lead in really bad directions, be it cancer, heart disease, or drinking disaster, period. So it takes a lot off the table. So you're potentially looking at a risk-free choice for a lot of great outcomes. And I like to consider myself on like a continuous learning and self-improvement journey. And that really didn't start whatsoever until alcohol stopped. So I think everyone's got that choice and it's free to make it anytime.
I love that, man. Well said. Well said. I want to give you an opportunity to share how the audience can, connect with you, connect with Athletic Brewing, um, to find out more about your products and all that good stuff.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, we're just at Athletic Brewing on all social media, athleticbrewing.com. We have new great beers out seemingly every week. An amazing team of people behind them. And then my email is just Bill at Athletic Brewing too, if anyone wants to ask me anything directly.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's a strong message, especially and I love the fact that you identify this as like it's a bridging tool. And I got to say, it's a tasty bridging tool. Like I said, the first time I tried it, I was floored. I was like, I can't believe this is non-alcoholic. And it's very interesting that you said that you're constantly improving the taste, because what I've noticed that as I drink more of
Awesome.
it, I'm like, wait a second. I was like, it tastes the same, but it also tastes better than what it did a few months ago. So it's interesting to hear that you guys have been constantly improving the taste, because yes, it's getting better. So I mean, not that it was bad before, but I can definitely tell you guys to put some work into it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you can always be better for sure. And like in every regard of everything. So
Mhm.
it's really proud of our team and the beer we're making.
Awesome, man. Well, guys, not to worry. Head on over to thedadedge.com/Friday 103 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday 103. If you want to connect with Bill, we'll have all his information in there as well. Bill, thank you so much for coming on today. Thanks for taking time, even though you're across the pond right now recording with us. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much. Really excited to be here and thank you so much.
You bet. Gentlemen, go out and live legendary. Take care.